What's up, YouTube? FFXIV here, and today we have a lot to talk about Final Fantasy XIV with just the amount of more players that we're seeing coming in that's just continually increasing. So let's get into that. I'll see you guys in just a second. What's up, YouTube? FFXIV here, and we have just seen so much growth in this game in the last few months. I'm actually even more excited, and I'm going to be honest, a lot of my concerns have been curved and ended since when Asmongold first said he was going to come in. Like, I'm going to be honest, guys, I was with a bunch of you when Asmon said he was coming in, that we were just going to get a wave of toxic WoW players. Not WoW players in general, but the toxic wave, you know, the players that are toxic. Because everybody knows that there are toxic WoW players. And if you sit there and say there are no toxic WoW players, you've either never played the game or you are seriously delusional and been in that game way too long that you have no idea what toxicity is. With that said, I did get a weird comment where somebody told me that for some reason, since Final Fantasy XIV isn't nearly as bad as WoW when it comes to toxicity, Final Fantasy has no toxicity. That's a load of crap. Guys, real quick, before we get into the main part of this video, I just want to say one thing. You don't have to have as much toxicity as one game in order to be considered toxic. Or to be considered to have toxicity, okay? There is a toxic fan base in Final Fantasy. Every Final Fantasy player knows it, even those in denial and might not admit it, know it. But a toxic fan base doesn't ruin the game. What ruins the game is when that toxic fan base is allowed to be toxic and it increases in size, thus turning the game into a toxic game. This is what really made WoW into a toxic game, is not so much that everybody's toxic, but the toxicity was ignored by almost everybody. And those who had an issue with the toxicity ended up just quitting the game instead of having a group to fix it. Go on the forums and you can see just that. The toxicity in the forums is unbelievable, that it's just like the weirdest loyalty system ever. And not say Final Fantasy XIV players are not loyal to the game. I mean, we really are. And I'm not going to lie, like, the One of Us meme is kind of creepy, in my opinion. And I've been playing since closed beta ARR. I'm not a 1.0 player, but I've played for a while. And the One of Us does kind of creep me out because it does give, like, the whole cultish ideology. But with all that aside, let's talk about the news and the players coming to Final Fantasy XIV. The first thing I want to talk about is Limit Maximum. Now, I did make a video where I criticized the use of add-ons. I want to kind of go in depth on that a bit. Like, okay, I do like Limit. I'm really enjoying watching him. And I'm really glad to see that he is actually bringing a new face and a new idea to Final Fantasy. I really am. I have concerns about the blatant use of add-ons and having even other add-ons made for him. That it could be a trigger point where people stop ignoring the terms of service. Or... and it is not just his fault. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's all his fault. No, I mean, like, he's just, something was said in the chat which obviously triggered me, and it wasn't by Limit, to be fair. It was more by somebody in his chat who pretty much said that they're gonna come to 14 and make 14 better by bringing all the WoW stuff that honestly we don't want. We don't want 1,000 add-ons in 14. Like, nobody wants that. We don't want 14 to be a game where you have to have add-ons to play the game, you know? And I think it's at a good spot as it is. I mean, like, if you want to use the add-ons, use them. I do worry that with too much blatant use of add-ons, and, oh, look, we're using all these add-ons, that maybe Square Enix or Yoshi will be pushed into finally having to make a decision on the add-ons, which he doesn't want to do. He's been very clear on that, and that's my main concern. Now, I like Limit. I think he's great, and I think it's a lot of fun, and I really am so glad to see a writer come in and talk about something other than the story of Final Fantasy. I'm not going to lie. I was one of those people that was like, well, you know, you really got to like the story to like Final Fantasy. Because, I mean, like, WoW ratings were better back in the day. But having to see these endgame raiders in WoW come over, like these competitive raiders come over to 14 and praise 14 so much, has really started to open my eyes to a couple of things. First of all, boosting. Now, I do still highly dissuade against boosting, and I think most people will. I do think at this point, though, if you have a problem with boosting, let's be real. Most people, when they mention the problem with boosting, they mention getting players that don't know their class. But I can say honestly that I have played with enough people that haven't boosted and still don't know their class. I'm friends with somebody like that. And the thing is, it doesn't really matter if you boost or not. I mean, look at Echo and look at Max's team. They boosted, but they took the time to learn their class. They are ideal boosters. They are the boosters that I think everybody is fine with, except for the very, very, very small amount of, no, you have to know the story. Now, I do think that they are missing out by skipping the story. I think if you boost and you skip the story, you're heavily missing out. So if you are a raider and you're looking to boost, my suggestion is go ahead and boost, but go back during non-raid times and experience the story on a class that you haven't boosted. I think that's probably the most ideal way to enjoy the game if you're a raider. You can still do the raid, you can still enjoy the endgame content, but then you can also go back through New Game Plus and do the story and see, oh, look how the story unfolds. Wow, this is really cool. And enjoy the story. It's, you know, and that way, honestly, like you're going through ARR, you don't have the same. I mean, honestly, I think this is what I would suggest for all WoW players thinking about it. If you're a WoW player and you're really worried about the drag of ARR, boost so that you have something that's a lot more fun to play, but then go back and do the story via New Game Plus. And don't even, you know, just like see your level 70 characters, say, oh, wow, how fun they have, blah, 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 blah. Go back and do the story, because at that point you can do it at your own pace and you can enjoy the aspects of endgame at level 70 and wait on it and wait on Shadowbringers till you get there. But you can enjoy the aspects of endgame at level 70 and then, you know, go through the story at your own time without feeling stuck in the story. I think that's a good route to go about it if you really don't think you can get through ARR. Now, Asma Gold, man, I have, you know, I think there's another idea here that I have a thing against Asma Gold. Like, I don't. I actually have a lot of respect for the man. And, you know, I might not always get things he says. I might not always, maybe he says things in a different way and I mistranslate it. But in general, the man came into this game after criticizing it so hardcore, completely open-minded, and was willing to admit he was wrong, the game was good. And so I think some people who've seen my content think that I have like a hate boner for Aspen, and I don't. I actually really like him. I think he's a good player, and I don't think he's ever been carried once. I will never call his clears a carry. I think he's earned every single clear. Even if he goes with the people that knows the fight, dude, that's not the same as you know, getting carried. Carried is getting a clear without doing any mechanics, and he is learning the mechanics. Yeah, he gets streamer privileges, but man, that's fine, dude. That's whatever. I don't give a shit about that. And I am, you know, I really look forward to seeing him get back on. I understand right now he's dealing with some real life stuff, and you know, I'm not going to pressure him or, you know, and I have tweeted a couple things, you know, just more like, you know, hope you take care and whatnot, because I do hope he takes care. You know, like I don't hate the guy. I actually like watching him. Let's talk about Pyromancer. Dude, I love Pyromancer, man. Watching a fellow Oregonian go through the story is awesome. And dude, I'm not gonna lie, dude, watching him have to take like 20 minutes of notes in each cutscene is a little exhausting, man. Like, it is, but like, I understand, dude. He's a freaking historian. Like, he is a historian, and I look so forward to see the results of it, even if it's like, all right, I've been staring at this cutscene for 20 minutes. Come on, Pyro, I gotta go to work in 5 minutes. I want to see you get to this one scene. But you know what, man, Pyro has my Prime sub, because I was thinking, you know, Asmon doesn't really need it, man. Asmon's got a shit ton of subs. I think Asmon's fine, but Pyro is a smaller streamer, and I want to give my support to the smaller streamers who I think need it, and, you know, and so that's kind of why that's going there. Rich, man, like, okay, so I'm actually in Rich's FC. I got into it, which is really cool. Dude, I love watching Rich. I think Rich is one of the funnest streamers out there, and I would love to just get on Discord and chill with the guy and just fuck around with him, man. I think that guy's a lot of fun. Honestly, all three of these new streamers, you know, who've only been in this game for a couple months, I think they brought something really good to the game. And honestly, I think that their opinions on the game are very valid. And this includes things that they don't like, you know. Let's talk about some raiders. Okay, now Maximum, dude. I'm loving watching Maximum, and I'm loving watching Echo. And I am just so glad to see two of the most competitive WoW raiders come into the game, take the one part that people usually say, it's okay, and be like, no, it's good. If you like raiding, you will like this. Because the whole weeb meme or the weeb stereotype or whatever you want to call it, that has been very damaging to the game because Final Fantasy XIV is not a weeb game at all. Final Fantasy XIV is just as much as a weeb game as Dark Souls is. You know, there's a difference between a game that is anime and a game that just uses an art style. Final Fantasy XIV uses a realistic art style. And honestly, Final Fantasy has always had a kind of a significant art style. Compare Final Fantasy, for example, to something like Code Vein or to any of the anime games. They're totally different. There is one anime aspect of Final Fantasy, but it's meant to be, and that is the Hildebrand quest. And they're meant to be anime. They're literally every stereotype you see of anime going, there you go. This is hilarious. And it's a pure joke. It's pure comedy. It's what you would consider a gag anime. In all honesty, it's what Dragon Ball is. It's a gag anime, not Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball. Or Excel Saga. Have you ever seen Excel Saga, which is literally an anime that does nothing but make fun of the tropes in anime? If I was to compare Final Fantasy to an actual anime, I would compare it to the Gundam series. And if you've ever seen the Gundam series, man, like, the Gundam series is not a weeb anime at all. MS Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam, the original Gundam, is so damn dark and just heart-wrenching and it's so many gut punches, man. Like, if you're into anime and you've never seen MS Gundam, the original 1978 Gundam, that is so good. And I think it's one thing that people got to realize with animes. Not every anime is weeb. Vampire Hunter D series is really good. Not actually even a manga. It was never a manga. It was a Japanese novel that was made into an anime. Really good. The Gundam series, again, really good. Well, MS Gundam Wing is meh. The original Gundam is really good. There are some really good series out there that don't follow anime tropes. I think that's when you're looking at Final Fantasy, that's what it is. So the whole weeb bull it's really damaging the game itself. Damaging anyone's, not damaging the game, but damaging people's willingness to try it. Most of the people that come in like, well, I played it, but I couldn't get it with weeb graphics, probably didn't get past 15 minutes. And they came in thinking, oh, it's going to be a weeb game. So they came in already thinking they're going to hate it. Now, that's not really in the control of the Final Fantasy community. We can't really control that because that's honestly something started by WoW players in order to dissuade people from trying another game. EverQuest players do the exact same thing with WoW, calling cartoonish. But there is one area we, the Final Fantasy players, are kind of messing up, and that is where I'm so glad to see Echo and Limit fixing it. And to be fair, I messed it up too. And that is simply the ideal that the Final Fantasy XIV raids aren't, you know, they're good, but they're not the best. And I think that's a problem. I think that we, as a community, undersell the game quite a bit and oversell the story and undersell the rest of the content, which isn't also good because then people who aren't big story fans aren't really gonna have a drive to play it. I think we need to sell it more as, look, the story is good, dude, the raids are good, the music is good. There's really not one part of this game that is bad. The probably most mediocre part of the game is PvP. And let's talk about PvP. PvP isn't bad because it's set up bad. PvP is only mediocre because we don't have a big PvP base. If we could get PvP players from WoW to come into 14, like the really good PvP players, I think we'd see PvP get better. So I do want to thank Echo and Max's team for the fact that they've come in and they have actually said the raids are good. If you like raiding, you'll like Final Fantasy, and I think we as a community need to start, honestly, need to start saying that too. The raids are good. I enjoy the raids. I think they're so cool. And if you do go through the story, the raids are better. This is why I suggest going through the story through New Game Plus if you really want to skip it and do some endgame content. Now, the last one. This one's really exciting for me. I was so excited to find this out, man. Preach has come into Final Fantasy, man. Dude, like, when he quit WoW, I was hoping he'd come into Final Fantasy, but he said he was going to do some, you know, he really didn't show any drive to do it. And I really liked watching some of the stuff he did, like his reactions to Final Fantasy 14 bosses. But because of what he said about not liking the dance fights, I did not think he would, I think he would be, yeah, that looks good, but that just doesn't look for me. Seeing him in game, dude, I am so excited to see Preach. I think he's a lot of fun, and he's honestly, I think one of the last really big content creators from WoW that we need. And there are some other content creators from WoW, and I really think we're gonna see more come over. I mean, it's increasing every day. And honestly, if you're a WoW content creator, a big problem like in the past was it was a risky move, right? But if you actually watch the content creators coming over from WoW to Final Fantasy 14, their numbers are jumping. Rich is over 20,000 subs. Pyro has over 7,000 subs. And this is only, like, Pyro was like less than 500 2 months ago. And in 2 months, he's jumped over 7,000. With that said, guys, I'm going to end it here. But I'm super excited. I really enjoy what I'm seeing here. I look forward to seeing more of their content. And, well, in the comments, what do you guys think? What do you feel about the boosting? For myself, I'm fine with boosting, but I do just wait against it, just so you can enjoy the story. With that said, Secret Chilane, signing out.